Hey everyone, this is Corey with Stafford CDC, and let's take a look today at the Kubey Akino, or Akino. I'm not quite sure how you say it, but this is a lockback knife coming from Kubey, which is interesting. Not sure the designer, but you can see that logo there. Anyone familiar, feel free to drop it in the comments. I'm not even sure what to say it looks like. It's like I don't know. It's kind of got some skull vibes going on, but I don't know exactly what it is. You can see it's 14C 28N is your blade steel here. G10 handles, and of course, like I said, it is a lockback. This has a deep carry clip with recessed screws, but the clip's not recessed, which is a little interesting. It is reversible as well, which is cool to see, making this a fully ambidextrous knife. And the funny thing about this is that it has a half stop. This is a feature you normally see in slip joints, but for some reason, Kubey decided that this lockback needed one. So when you open it, it stops halfway, then it goes the rest of the way. You don't have to press the lock or anything at the halfway point. You can, but it's just going to run free at that point. You don't really want to depress a lock back like that, especially a modern one, because it will drop onto your finger. So keep that in mind. Now, you saw I opened this with one hand, thanks to this fuller. You can kind of ride past that half stop. But just be careful if you do try and do this one-handed. If you try and do a slip joint one-handed, you'll cut the shit out of yourself. I've done it several times thinking, oh, I can get it open one hand, and then it jumps to the half stop and you shove your thumb into the cutting edge. So just be careful if you're going to try that. And because this is kind of a weak half stop, you can kind of reverse flick this open. Give it a little bit of wrist. I don't think you could quite get it without the wrist. Yeah, I mean, a little less wrist, and you can make it work. But this is probably one you're going to want to open two-handed, and feel that half stop, kind of enjoy the walk and talk on this, which as long as you use the lock to get it out of that first position here, you can kind of fidget with this like a slip joint, which is pretty cool. Overall, it's a very straightforward design. It's kind of like a modernized version of the Sodbuster pattern, which I don't think I own any of anymore. Just pulling out my little slip joint drawer here. No, I don't own any more Sodbusters, so can't even show that off. But I think everyone kind of knows the Sodbuster pattern. Essentially, it's if this was kind of a little more angled down and everything was rounded, it would look pretty much the exact same, and a lot more rounded at the tip. But overall, it's kind of got that DNA in it, and this is just like a modernized version of that. Now, I do believe these are pretty cheap, being in 14C, being a Kubey knife, G10. You can see the way this fits in my hand. It's not like crazy ergonomic or anything, but it's not uncomfortable. The pocket clip does kind of create some hot spotting in my palm, just because it is so tall. This is a knife that you probably don't need the clip on. You could probably just take it off, throw both screws in there, and then call it a day. And drop this right in the bottom of your pocket. Has a lot of lockbacks, and slip joints, of course, don't have pocket clips. That's not a crazy way to carry this. Now, the 14C blade is pretty thin. The overall blade thickness isn't crazy thin, but it does come to a nice, pretty thin edge with a full flat grind here. The fuller certainly helps reduce drag when cutting. And then in this area, which I always hate the way these look, this weird spot when the fuller comes off the blade, that is actually a pretty nice place to put your pointer finger if you want to do some more detailed work with that tip. But what I was saying was you actually get some tapering from that point forward to a nice thin tip. So this works well for penetrating if you needed to do that to anything. But really, as just a knife, a simple piece, it's pretty nice. I kind of wish it didn't have the half stop, but I also kind of like the half stop. It's just not typical of your lockbacks. I'll grab a lockback here. This is the only other lockback that I own. This is a Case Tribal lock. They don't make these anymore, but this does not have a half stop, as you can see. There's nothing that puts this at the half position at all. And this just opens and closes like a typical lockback would. But this guy has a spot here, you can see. It's kind of, a lot of slip joints are designed that way, with a flat spot or a kind of slightly cupped spot on the end, which this GEC is going to be a little tough to see. But you can see they're flat in there, and and that flat spot on a slip joint sits flat on the spring, which is how the half stop works. So on a lockback, you have a little notch on this bar. So when you press it down, the notch makes room, and it sits in there when the blade's fully open. But because this has kind of that bump in it, the notch falls into that little hole. You can see it happen right there. So that's why it's kind of like mushy of a half stop. It's not super stiff. Kind of get that play in there. But it's because it's just that lock settling into that little divot in there. And then when you open it, it falls into that groove. And then of course you have to press the lock bar to get it past that. They could theoretically, if they wanted, really cut that out to be a lot deeper. And then you'd have to use the lock to get it open all the way, but that would be really inconvenient to press it twice to get it open. So I'm glad they didn't do that. But they also could have just rounded the tang off, and that would have led to being smooth on the open and the close rather than having the half stop, which I could have seen it gone either way. But again, an interesting feature nevertheless to see on a lockback. Performance though, pretty nice. It's, you know, like I said, it's not super ergonomic or anything like that, but drop the pocket clip off and then you have yourself a modern Sodbuster basically. And you know, that's pretty cool. So it's nice to see Kubey doing a design like this, and whoever this designer is for coming up with this here and making a pretty interesting knife overall. So that's my thoughts here on the Kubey Akino, however the hell you say it. With that, thank you guys for watching, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.